What's the plan for Tennessee to replace Bru McCoy at wide receiver? Such a huge loss. And now that Cooper Mays is back, is this offensive line back to being good? Two questions. We'll talk about it all here on a Thursday. Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Thursday, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Vols. It is your team every single day, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your first listen every single day. Appreciate you everydayers for making this happen. We got a fun show coming up here on a Thursday. The best of Josh Heupel. We'll hear from Cooper Mays. He spoke to the media for the first time since his first time this season, since coming back from injury. And so going to play a couple of those clips and kind of react to those. In segments 2 and 3, we'll chat with Boogie Bentley of a little Locked On Talkin VAWLS Network. And it's going to be a fun, fast, and furious Thursday edition of Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys for being here and making all of this possible each and every day. No Tennessee game on Saturday, but a chance to scout Tennessee's two next opponents, Texas A&M and Alabama. That's a CBS 3:30 game on Saturday. And, of course, Tennessee and Texas A&M going to be the CBS 3:30 game the following Saturday on October the 14th. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let's look at, let's first talk about Bru McCoy. And we know it's going to be such a, such a hard task in trying to replace Bru McCoy, what he means to this offense, production-wise, all that and more. Josh Heupel was asked about replacing Bru McCoy. The conversation probably starts with Dont'e Thornton, so that's how the question here is presented, and that's how Josh Heupel's answering that question. But also, it's Kaleb Webb. It is Nimrod. There's a lot to go into this. So here's Josh Heupel on kind of replacing Bru McCoy, what the plan is there, and of course Bru McCoy kind of getting back from injury and staying very much involved with the football team in the weeks to follow.
Yeah, Dont'e, but all the guys that you've seen and some that you maybe haven't, got to continue to grow and be ready to play here on the back half of the season. Obviously, Bru's injury devastating for him, and he's doing well. But at the same time, in this game, the next guy's got to be ready to step up. Dont'e wasn't available last week. Anticipate him being full steam when we get to A&M. The young guys that played or have played got to continue to grow and play at a really high level, like a lot of what they did the other night when they got their opportunity. Really, the last couple of weeks they've played pretty good football. I don't know how the rotation will exactly play out as we get to A&M, but we got the ability and flexibility to move guys into different spots. All of those guys really have trained at multiple spots.
So those young guys, Kaleb Webb, Nimrod. Josh Heupel saying he liked a lot of what those guys have been doing, not just last game, but the last couple of weeks. And if you remember, Kaleb Webb got in the game kind of early against UTSA, caught a touchdown from Joe Milton. That was good to see. Nimrod was the guy that was kind of coming along last year and had a little bit of a foot injury. Not saying that he would have played a lot last year, but he was the name of between him and Kaleb Webb that you heard last year in the 2022 season. So I think Tennessee likes both those guys, and I think the fact that Keaton and Squirrel and Thornton and even Bru, They didn't scrimmage much in preseason or in spring. Tons and tons of reps for Kaleb Webb, for Nimrod, and I think that it really benefited for those guys because they're gonna have to play next year. They're gonna have to play next year in a big way for Tennessee in this offense. So I expect Dont'e Thornton to bump outside a little bit. I'm not saying he'll be the quote unquote starter. He might still come off the bench. Kaleb Webb might get the starts. Actually, that's what I'm anticipating. I'm anticipating 84 Kaleb Webb out there as your quote-unquote starting wide receiver, but not just limiting Dont'e Thornton to the slot. He has the build, he has the frame, he has the speed, and the size to play on the outside at 6'5", 215 pounds. So it's time for him to kind of put up or shut up. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know we're just 5 games into a Tennessee career here, but you came here for a reason. You have yet to do much, if anything at all. And now there's big reason for you to step up and be that NFL-type guy that the coaching staff believes you to be. And, I've said it a couple of times on the show as well. So we'll see exactly kind of what that plan is, in trying to replace Bru McCoy. But a lot of production. Second on the team last year in receptions and receiving yards. He was tied for the team lead in receptions going into last game. And, I believe he led the team in receiving yards prior to last game as well, because Squirrel White had a 100-yard game and went off. But nonetheless, it's a lot of production you're leaving behind. So, again, continued thoughts and prayers for Bru McCoy. Such a devastating injury, but Tennessee's got to move on. It is a next man up mentality for Tennessee and Josh Heupel. But I don't think it's going to be as simple as like last year where Mel Keaton steps up and goes. I think that it's going to be a couple of different guys that kind of play that spot, in my opinion. Cooper Mays met with the media and spoke for the first time since coming back from hernia surgery, essentially, and playing for the first time against for this season against South Carolina. What did Cooper Mays have to say about coming back, how he feels, how he felt not being able to play, the outside noise, the media attention, all that? Here's Cooper Mays, some real good stuff here from a Wednesday media appearance.
Yeah, it felt good. It felt good for me to get out there, be with my teammates. That was the hardest part of being out. So just getting back and being able to get in the swing of things and find a little bit of rhythm was good. Sometimes it hurts to play the game, just how it is. So I've been a little bit sore, but getting back this week and getting ready for next week too. It was rough. That was expected though. I mean, it's kind of, we're student athletes. It's kind of like our whole thing, playing football. It's basically kind of our whole life. So not being able to do what you love and what you've prepared for doing your whole life is going to be hard every time. It was tough. Just something that we kind of harped on in my recovery process was making sure that I do everything I can to stay conditioned and get ready for whenever I do come back and play, making sure I was ready for the task at hand. So it was a big focus of ours, and I think we did a pretty good job. Earlier in the week, we have our padded practices, and kind of the first day that I got out there in pads and did the whole thing, felt pretty confident in myself, felt pretty comfortable in my shoes and where my feet were. So probably earlier in the week, I found a good gauge of where I was at.
So that last question was like, essentially, when did you know that you were going to play? Because Josh Heupel getting up there, before the Florida game saying, hey, Cooper Mays going to play, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, no, he's not. I talked to people who, you're the head football coach, so I'm not trying to say you don't know, but, part of being a reporter is having, people that you talk to that are on the inside. And let's put it this way. At that point in time, everybody was like, he'll be available, but I wouldn't anticipate him starting or playing 60 snaps in a football game. So when he said that going to Florida, it's kind of like, what? Like, what are you doing? Because, again, he never treats injuries that way. That's one of the most bizarre things that we've heard all season long. But anyway, 2 games later, Cooper Mays is here. He started. That offensive line looked good. And you're starting to see that offensive line to what it can be, that 5 that I think is the best. Cooper Mays at center, Ollie Lane at left guard, Gerald Mincy at right tackle. We'll see kind of how that goes as the year goes on. But I think that's your best 5, and I wouldn't mess with it, in my opinion. You heard him say it was kind of like his default, phrase to begin every answer. It was tough. It was tough. Yeah, it was tough. Number 1, you were in pain. Number 2, you had surgery. Number 3, you're not playing football, the sport that you love. Number 4, you're watching your teammates do that and go through trials and tribulations and have some successes. And regardless of whatever end of the spectrum they're on that day, you were being a part of it. And so that's tough. That's really, really tough. And so good to get Cooper Mays back. Number 1, he's one of your best players. Number 2, he's a leader on this football team. And good to get him back in front of the media because he's always really, really good with the media. And I can really, really respect that. So wanted to bring some of those clips to you. Bru McCoy, Cooper Mays from Wednesday media availability. That's the only day that we get to go over to campus and hear from coaches and players during the bye week. We'll be back to our normal media coverage for game week next week with Josh Heupel at noon, players on Tuesday, and coordinators. Heupel again on Thursday, and of course they're in the game on Saturday. So wanted to bring those to you. I hope you enjoyed them. And when we come back, we'll check in with Boogie Bentley of the Talkin VAWLS Network. All that and more is coming up next right here on Locked On Vols. eBay Motors, proud sponsor of the show. Really enjoy what they're doing over there at eBay Motors because passion, drive, and patience, that's what brings home the winning trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. Ride or die at your vehicle, right? eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and leveled up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts to choose from, your number 1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With an eBay guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that dub. Keep your ride or die alive today at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply, eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers.
Hey guys, before we get into Boogie Bentley, I want to tell you about college football season. We know it's here. It's the bye week for Tennessee. Locked On, kicking up the coverage every Friday with the Locked On football kickoff live show and new time change. It's going to be 11 a.m. Eastern time to noon. 11 a.m. Eastern time to noon. Every Locked On YouTube channel. That's on Fridays. College football kickoff live, playoff implications, conference realignments, rivalry games, all that and more. It's on every Locked On YouTube channel, including this one. It's going to be Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time to noon moving forward this football season. All right, I'm Eric Kane. That is Boogie Bentley from the Talkin VAWLS Network. It's the bye week, but we still wanted to get in our little crossover. Boogie, Tennessee's 4-1, 1-1 in Southeastern Conference play. Nice little win against South Carolina last weekend.
Good win, man. It's coach speak, right? 1 week at a time. Go 1-0 every week. But I felt South Carolina was such a big game going into the bye week because I feel like, man, we would have been flat as a fan base, right? From a fan's perspective. Would have been a really long week off, but now you got the win over South Carolina. See if Josh Heupel can scheme something up against Texas A&M. And again, 1 week at a time. We got a rough stretch coming up. Texas A&M, at Alabama, at Kentucky. These are three of the games that you and I talked about preseason. How do you come out of this mix? Man, somebody asked me just last night, Boogie, what do you think? Next three games, 1-2, 2-1, 3-0. You could go 0-3. We're almost halfway into this season, and I'm still not sure if we know what this football team is yet. So we'll find out. We're definitely going to find out in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of the conversation for me this week on the bye week. I'm going to ask you more of those types of questions, but first the defense looked so bad against Florida, and I think a lot of that was game plan. I didn't like the game plan from Tim Banks at the Florida game, but you played 4 teams with non-pulse, 1 team or 2 teams with a pulse. The other 3 didn't have a pulse. You looked like crap against one, and then you looked really good against another. Spencer Rattler, arguably the best quarterback in the country in the SEC, coming in here. Tennessee made him look so pedestrian. Rattled the Rattler, 169 passing yards, pick 6, no touchdowns through the air. Is this defense more of what we saw Saturday or more of what we saw at Florida?
That's the question, right? What is it? And I'm with you. I think, we've talked about Tim Banks. When he goes out and plays aggressive football, this defense plays better. They just do. So I think we should live or die by playing aggressive defense. You've got a dominant defensive line. Tyler Barron with 4 sacks, Omari Thomas, Omar Norman-Lott, James Pierce has 5 sacks, but it's not just those guys, man. It's as you rotate through that defensive line. They are solid, 8-10 deep, man, guys out there making plays. I think this defense might be better than what we give them credit for, but we can't talk about it, right? You can't talk about it because you said it. We played 2 teams with a pulse, so how do we really know what this football team is? But right now they're giving up 17.8 points per game. If they continue to play solid defense, and then you look at Tim Banks, and some people questioned him. They questioned him coming out of that Florida game, and rightfully so. I did not like that game plan. But if you continue to improve, he 7 points scoring defense from year 1 to year 2. Now how much do you improve year 2 to year 3? And look at the young talent on this defense, man. I think they're continuing to get better. And I put out a video earlier this week, and I said, is this the new Tennessee football? Is this the identity? Go out, be dominant on defense, let Joe Milton just do enough, right? Just the opposite of last year. Last year, it's like, well, they're going to score 40, but guess what? We're going to score 50, and Hendon's going to throw for 350, run for 100, win the game on his own. This team's a little different. Is that the true identity? I don't know yet. I can't answer that.
I've been saying all week, I'm like, this is very 1995 of me to say, but if you run the football well and you play above average defense, and you got a guy quarterback that's just not going to beat you, not going to get you beat, you're going to win a lot of football games. Now, that holds true today, but you're not going to follow that same script every single week. Joe Milton's going to have to win you some games. And so this week I've been calling him, and again, this kind of comes with a negative connotation, and I'm not trying to even say it like that. There's no quarterback controversy or anything. I'm not trying to start one. But to this point, 5 games in, tell me if this is fair or foul. You have Joe Milton, who is the best game manager in the country, looking-wise, potential-wise, but that's all he is right now. For the most part, he's never going to be perfect, and that's somebody I was going round and round like a freaking merry-go-round yesterday because, somebody on the board just got an agenda, and that's fair. But nobody's ever going to be perfect. For the most part, he's making the right decisions. He's not getting you beat, but he is not winning you football games right now. Is that fair to say? Also, is it fair to say that's fine, but Joe Milton will have to win you some games down the stretch? Because, again, like we talked about, A&M on the road, Alabama, Kentucky, you've got Missouri later on, you got Georgia later on. Joe Milton will have to win you some football games.
100%. And right now, that's what's so painful about that loss to Florida. They should have won that game. They're a better football team than Florida with that recipe. Just play good defense, let Joe manage the game, run the football. Like if I told you going into the year, hey, we're going to be almost halfway into the season, and Tennessee's going to be leading the SEC in rushing yards. They're going to give up 17.8 points per game, and they're going to lead the entire country in sacks. You would say, okay, they're undefeated. They're rolling into the bye week undefeated. Joe is going to have to win, and it's almost a kind of weird, eerie to me, because I feel like this fan base is just sitting there waiting. When can we say bench Joe Milton? When can we say put him on the bench and get Nico in there? He threw 2 interceptions against South Carolina, and I don't think he played bad against South Carolina, but 2 interceptions against Texas A&M, 2 interceptions against Alabama, probably even against Kentucky, is going to get you beat. And you can say, oh, well, they weren't bad throws. I can live with that interception. Don't throw to the middle of the field and cover 3. You're a 6-year senior. You know better. You know better than to do that. The throw to Jacob Warren, I'm still debating with myself whether or not that was okay. I felt like there was more room in the end zone. But the bottom line is, yeah, he's the first dude off the bus, and everybody's terrified, and we're just asking him to go out there and not get us beat. It's kind of strange.
The throw to Jacob Warren, I can live with. Like, you just went similar route to the end zone. You got 6. You're going right back to the same guy. You're forcing it. I can live with that. It is what it is. You're exactly right, man. Didn't even see the safety. Didn't even see it. You looked. I thought Jordan Rogers did a great job kind of breaking that down when I went back and watched the tape. He's like, yeah, I mean, you see this. You think cover 2. You think cover 2. You throw the football. Didn't even see the other safety just sitting there. I mean, you got to see that. That's a bad mistake. But I just, it's kind of eerie a little bit. And whether it's poor offensive line play, the lack of trust in Joe, whatever the case is, I mean, this vertical passing game's got to get going. So again, that's probably one of my biggest surprises at this point in the season. I never thought Joe Milton was going to be Hendon Hooker. I do not think Joe Milton should be benched. I think Joe Milton is, for this football team right now, it's fine. I recognize that things got to get a little bit better. And so if I had to ask you, what's one thing, I'm kind of previewing a series of written content we're doing over at VolQuest.com this weekend. What's one thing that you need to see improve in the back half of the season for Tennessee to get some wins?
Oh, man, just a passing game in general, right?
Yeah.
I was going to say wide receivers, but just a passing game in general. And, to play devil's advocate to myself here, like, I like that Josh Heupel will change and adapt, and that's what we're seeing, right? We're talking about the identity of this team. If the identity is to go play defense and run the football and be physical, and we all know they want to run the football, that's part of this offense, they're not taking as many downfield shots. And like you said, is it the offensive line? Is it Joe? Whatever the case may be, I like that Josh Heupel is willing to adapt, and we're hearing the buzz about D. Williams getting shifted over to wide receiver. It just reminds me of Evan Berry when he was so electric returning kicks. And we're all as a fan base saying, why can't we get this guy the football on offense? And that never happened. But here Josh Heupel is willing to, make a change. And we'll see. I think wide receivers, though, to answer the question, wide receivers got to be better. Joe Milton's got to be better. You're going to have to be able to take some shots down the field. But just almost halfway into the season, the disappointment, man. Dont'e Thornton, 7 catches for 89 yards. Squirrel White's balled out, right? He's leading this team in catches and yards. And now not only – are you looking for the wide receivers to improve, but you lose Bru McCoy? That's a crushing blow. How do the young guys come along? Kaleb, Webb, Chaz, and Nimrod. They've looked good at times. They've struggled at times. So that's who I think you got to get better at the oh my gosh, I almost said a Butchism. The throw game. You got to be better at the throw game.
Oh man, what's bad is so many of the things that Butch said back in the day, like I find myself saying now and I just forget. And if somebody's like, oh, you sound like Butch Jones, I'm like, I don't want to do that. So
the throw game. Oh, thanks, Butch.
All right, we'll talk more about the throw game when we return. Boogie Bentley said it first. It wasn't me. More with Boogie coming up next right here on Locked On Vols. Final segment here on a Thursday edition of Locked On Vols. Boogie Bentley, Talkin VAWLS Network. Join us for his weekly hit here on Locked On Vols. We call it Locked On Talkin VAWLS, and appreciate the Colt for joining us here. I'm going to put on that T-shirt at some point in time when it gets here in the mail, so don't you worry. Boogie, another thing that we're going to be writing about, Biggest surprise so far on offense for Tennessee football through 5 games?
Biggest surprise on offense. The biggest surprise is how bad the passing game has been. That's probably the biggest surprise for me. Like, everybody talking about the running game and Jalen Wright, and how successful he's been through 5 games. Doesn't surprise me. I think I've said all offseason, I think these running backs, these Tennessee running backs are good, whether it's Jalen Wright, Jabari Small, Dylan Sampson. I thought Small kind of struggled a little bit against South Carolina, dancing around in the hole. But again, it probably would be a surprise for me to say Tennessee's leading the SEC in rushing yards per game. I would have never expected that. But doubling back to the last segment, it's just a lack of success. That's what surprises me. I thought Dont'e Thornton would come in this offense and thrive. But maybe it takes time to adapt and learn this offense, right? Sometimes we forget, hey, he just got here. He just transferred in. And we think he's going to come in and just have the whole playbook down and go out there and dominate. We'll see. I'm curious to see if he somehow steps in on the outside now with Bru McCoy injured. I don't know. I don't think, and I said this about Kamal Hadden last year after that South Carolina game. His whole career is not. He's not going to be. That's just one game, right? It's just a little drop in the bucket, and I don't think that Dont'e Thornton's start to this 2023 season is going to be who he is. I think he's still got a bright future ahead of him at Tennessee, but. Man, I totally just dodged that question and went right back doubling down on the lack of passing game, the throw game. That's all I got.
It's surprising. It's surprising for sure. Let's flip it over defensively. Good or bad? Biggest surprise through 5 games.
Defensive line, definitely not a surprise. Like you just expect.
But is
Rodney
it not
Garner.
surprising how dominant it's been? Virginia game, this game. I mean, it's been like I thought it was going to be better. I thought it was going to be good. I didn't see James Pierce or Tyler Barron playing at this level that they're playing right now.
I guess not. But still, like, you can get on here in front of a microphone every day and say Rodney Garner's the best defensive line coach in the country. Do you believe it? Because if you do, then you shouldn't be surprised that Tyler Barron's balling out, James Pierce is balling out. And you go back to recruiting, and James Pierce, Joshua Josephs, right? And everybody's excited about James Pierce. But Joshua Josephs comes in a freshman, gets some playing time. Took James Pierce a little bit longer to grasp things, figure things out. Now he is just dominating. Like, it's not just having 5 sacks. He lives in the backfield on a regular basis, impacting plays. But no, I'm not even going to sit here and pretend I'm surprised. Rodney Garner is doing what Rodney Garner does. He continues to recruit. That defensive line is going to continue to dominate. What is surprising to me is seeing, and you touched on it Monday, seeing true freshman linebackers out there side by side, like seeing Jeremiah Thielander, Arian Carter. Yeah. Like, it shows you that the future at the linebacker position at Tennessee is bright. You've got some good ones, Jeremiah Thielander, Arian Carter. I think Elijah Herring can be good. But how much better can they be? When is Keenan Peely coming back? Mid-October? Like, we're never going to know. Okay, this is terrible.
November at the earliest.
Okay, this is terrible. But Josh Heupel injuries. After the Bru McCoy injury, absolutely heartbreaking, praying for that kid. We love him. Somebody in my community said Josh Heupel's going to stand up there at the podium and say he's a game-time decision for Texas A&M.
Yeah.
That's terrible, but it's so true.
We'll see when we can get him back here and get on the grass a little bit. I mean, gosh, he's got his go-tos when he talks about injuries. At least, with Bru, he did say after the game, he was like, we'll learn a little bit more on Monday and everything. But, I mean, yeah, like that one is
bad.
just.
It was bad. Hey, go support Bru, man. Go. I saw Aspire's doing they're donating so much money from the signed autographed 8x10s. Go pick those up, man. Spire Sports Group, join the volunteer club, all that good stuff. But support Bru. Support Bru by picking up some NIL gear. I think that's something we can do. Yeah, absolutely, no doubt about it. And curious to see kind of the timeline. I think it's I've been asked a ton this week. Is he going to come back? It's like he's laying in a hospital bed, or he was up until like Tuesday or whatever. After the surgery. I mean, it's way too early to even talk about that, depending on the recovery time and all that. So if there's a chance for him to go and get drafted, he's going to go. I'm pro day combine. Is that knocked out? I don't know. We'll see. Team MVP through 5 games. I don't know if you listened to one of the shows earlier this week, but I did like my top 5 or whatever, and completely left Aaron Beasley off the top 5. Just complete oversight. I'm so stupid. Aaron Beasley might be your team MVP. I don't know, but who's your team MVP? I just talked about linebackers and didn't even mention him. So we're right there together. I'm going James Pierce.
I was listening to Josh and Swain the other day. Swain didn't even have him in his top 5, and I text Josh, and I'm like, I knew I liked Swain because he forgot about him too. And Josh is like, I'm going to go to utsports.com and make sure he's still on the team.
I mean, Aaron Beasley could very well be your MVP, but I'm going James Pierce, man, just because he is so dominant. Aaron Beasley's leading this football team with 19 tackles right now, has 2 sacks. But James Pierce, just the way he is impacting the game, right? And again, 5 sacks right up there at the top, man. But the way he gets into the backfield, I'm pretty sure, wasn't he the one that applied pressure on the overthrow that Kamal Hadden took to the house?
Yep.
And that was a huge turning point, right? We talk about the middle eight all the time. You and I, whether it's here or on my channel, we're always talking about how important that middle eight is. And you're kind of thinking, okay, we dropped the ball there. We're not going to be able to kind of pull away and have an opportunity. And then Kamal Hadden pick 6, and I felt like that. Tennessee I felt like they never really stepped on the throat of South Carolina, but the game was never in doubt from that point on. But James Pierce, the way he's able to impact a football game, take over a football game, a tackle has no shot against James Pierce.
I'm looking at the stats at utsports.com, and I don't even see Beasley on here.
There was something – I don't use UT Sports because there was something last year where they just removed Byron Young completely off the stats list. And I could never find him.
Oh, yeah. See, well, I'm stupid, and the list actually started a page above, not this page, and it's Aaron Beasley, Elijah Herring, Wesley Walker, and then it's a new page. It's the rest of the defense. Yeah, 33 tackles. I think you said 19. I'm like,
What
that
the
is
heck?
not right.
What? Well, how am I wrong? I'm on ESPN. Oh, because I'm solo tackles. I was looking at solo tackles.
Yeah,
Total
that's it
tackles,
right there.
33.
Yeah,
There you go.
33 tackles. Because I mean, the dude had like, I think it was Austin P. I think he had like 9 tackles
Double
in the
digits.
first half. I'm
Yeah.
like, shit. It's like, dang. All right, so we done that. Let's go, and I think you and I both will have the same answer here. One player that has got to step up the back half of the season for Tennessee to reach its goals.
Joe Milton, 100% Joe Milton.
Yep.
Like I mean, you hit it at the top of the show. It's not, you can't just be efficient and go beat Alabama. You can't just be efficient and go beat Kentucky on the road. People crucified me in the offseason for saying that's going to be a tough game, and now people are questioning what the next three games look like with Texas.
Well, hold on.
Alabama.
People got mad at you because you said Alabama's going to be a tough game?
No, Kentucky.
Oh, no.
On the road,
Okay.
Now you're like, yeah, you're an idiot, Boogie. Kentucky? We're Kentucky's daddy.
What a moron. I mean, I've been the biggest Mark Stoops fan, I think, of Tennessee media, and but nah.
I drag this show through the mud. I turn you into one of us. You are a cult member. I drag you through the mud. We ruin
have a
all
t-shirt.
professionalism around here.
Hey, complete sidebar. I know you're talking Joe Milton here. How disappointing has Devin Leary been since we're talking about those cats here?
Dude, I don't care about. Why are we talking about Kentucky? Why are we talking about Kentucky? If you're going to talk about Kentucky, you got to talk about the running back, right? Like,
well, Ray Davis is great, but I want to poor boy Kentucky here. Like Devin Leary, I thought was going to be really good because he was one of the best quarterbacks in the country a couple years ago, and he's not been very good. So that I thought that Kentucky game was going to be very challenging as well, and I still do. But my point is, when Tennessee goes up there in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. If Devin Leary is still playing the way Devin Leary's playing right now, focus on that run game, go get a dub.
okay, so let me be complete devil's advocate here.
Okay.
You're talking about how bad Devin Leary's playing. What's his quarterback rating compared to Joe Milton's?
I'm sure it's better. Well, let me say this.
It's better.
He has played so much poorly than I thought, because if I'm being truthful, I thought Devin Leary could be one of the best quarterbacks in this league. Like, I thought Devin Leary could be, like, good, and he's just not been. So, to your point, I don't have the stats in front of me. I am sure that his rating is better than Joe Milton's.
Yeah. I have no idea either. I'm just curious.
I just know that they beat Florida the other day, and he was like 9 of 21 passing. It's like, what in the hell?
Yeah, but when you run the football like they did in that game, I mean, come on. But I like Tennessee's ability to stop the run against Kentucky. It's just, for me, the reason that game was circled was just strictly based on, hey, you got to beat A&M, then you got to go on the road and play Alabama, and then you got to go on the road again and play Kentucky. And Kentucky plays Tennessee tough, man, and we're their Florida. You know, we are to Kentucky what Florida is to us.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't matter what the stats say, what the numbers say, what the talent is. For some reason, we own Kentucky. That's why I sell a shirt that says Kentucky's daddy, because we are Kentucky's daddy. We got completely derailed. This is Locked On Talkin VAWLS.
There was a beat. I don't know who it was, and I should do better at my job. But there's a beat writer for Florida that even like before the Kentucky game a couple weeks ago or last week wrote a story like of the annual rivals is Kentucky Florida's biggest annual rival, and the answer is no. But I mean, it's something to think about. It's certainly more of a rivalry game. I mean, hides than Tennessee's been historically, right?
Been more competitive.
I mean, here in the last 5, 6 years, 7 years,
Yeah,
and Tennessee's got a
right.
win last year in 2016. But anyway, yeah, this is Locked On Talkin Vols here.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much. The answer is Joe Milton. Joe
There you
Milton's
go.
got to play better. Joe Milton's got to make some plays. Joe Milton's got to exceed some expectations the back half of the schedule to win some of these games and, of course, get Tennessee still very much on the table at 9. Some people even a 10-win season, but a lot has got to go better on the offensive end consistently the rest of the way.
That's right. Joe Milton's got to be good. I think Tennessee still has a shot, man. I said 9-3 at the beginning of the year. I'm sticking to 9-3.
Yeah, me too.
I think between Georgia, Alabama. Goodness gracious, you could look at 8-4 too. But I like the way this football team played. Gosh, let's not end on a negative note. It's a bye week. Finish this thing on a positive. Coming out of a big win over South Carolina, 41-20. Go get ready for Texas A&M. All eyes are going to be on that Texas A&M Alabama game on Saturday. That's going to be one worth watching. And man, I think Bama, it's almost a pick 'em. It's like a field goal or something like that line. So yeah, I'm interested to watch that game on Saturday.
The way Tennessee played, just overall top to bottom, the way Tennessee played against South Carolina gives you a lot of confidence moving forward, like saying, okay, this is more of the team that we thought we could see this year. Now can we find some consistency?
Yeah, you get Joe Milton going, and he doesn't have to throw for 350, but
No.
you hit a couple of shots down the field, you run the football, you play good defense, you can go win 9 or 10 games.
Boogie, I know it's the bye week, but no days off over there at the Talkin VAWLS Network. What do you got coming up the rest of the week, this weekend, and getting ready for Texas A&M next weekend?
Got tons of videos coming your way this weekend. Not going to do any live streams over the weekend. We're going to slide the fan call-in show to Monday night. Me and Kaner will be moving around, shifting the schedule. I don't know if we'll do either Wednesday night, maybe Friday morning. We'll see how the schedule plays out. We got tons of content coming your way, so go check it out over at Talkin VAWLS Network on YouTube. We would appreciate it.
So when I said no days off, literally he's going to take a couple of days off this weekend.
You said that, and I was like, for the first time in the history of the channel, I'm taking 2 days off. I told everybody, I was like, Saturday, Sunday, I'm not doing anything. Going to spend some time with the family and take the weekend off.
As he should. Boogie, appreciate it, man.
Always a good time, brother.
All right, that is Boogie Bentley, the Talkin VAWLS Network. Appreciate him as always, collaborating right here on God bless. Locked On Talkin Vols is what we call it, but coming to my show, Locked On Vols. There we go. We'll come back Friday. We will end this week on a high note, get you set for a college football weekend. No Tennessee, that's a bummer, but what should we as Tennessee fans be looking for this weekend? The Tennessee perspective moving forward, that and a whole lot more. Josh Heupel from his Wednesday press conference. All that coming up on a Friday show. Appreciate you guys for making Locked On Vols your first listen. We'll do it again tomorrow. This is Locked On Vols.